Progress.
And we're ready to go.
Okay, for the roll call, do we need to also state our addresses or just our names?
Only members of the public need to state their name and address if they're going to speak.
Okay, well, I see myself here, I see Kent Hutchinson. Is Alderman Brian Johnson present?
No.
Okay, Mr. Chuck Yang?
Present.
Thank you, and Alex Zacharias? Okay. Rizal Figuero? Hello. Timothy Perlitz? Okay, and should we get other people's names and addresses to get on the record? Or do we need to do that as people speak?
We also have Beth Kowalski here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Beth.
That's okay.
And Beth and Gabriel Metoxen?
Don't believe she is here this morning.
Okay, all right, my apologies, Beth.
That's okay.
If we decide to open the floor, then as people want to speak, then we'll ask them to share their name and address, and then they can start talking. So until we
Okay.
open the floor, we don't need to do that.
Great, thank you. So it looks like our first order of business is approving the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. The agenda is approved. Next, let's approve our minutes. Kent, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Bid.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, and that brings us to E, regular business. I think, Laura, we're gonna look first at the TDS submissions, is that correct?
Yep,
Okay, can I hand it over to you?
absolutely.
Thank you.
So, back in March of last year, Parks Committee approved installing TDS utility boxes in 4 of their parks. Part of that agreement was to have artwork installed on those utility boxes. So in December, we met and you guys had approved a call for art, asking for visual artists of all mediums to submit work that could then be printed into a vinyl graphic and installed on these boxes. From that call for art, we received submissions from 22 artists, totaling over 80 works of art, which you guys diligently reviewed and scored ahead of time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. From there, like I said, we have 4 parks that these are going to be installed in. There's obviously a lot more that are going to be put in. We just don't know whether they'll be in more parks. There's a lot that's going in public right-of-way. If we were to wrap those, we still need to get permission from Public Works to wrap those. So currently, we just have 4 sites, but there is the potential to expand to more spaces in the future. From there, the artwork that we select today, the artists are going to get $300 per image to wrap these boxes, and TDS will be covering the cost of the artist fee and the wrapping. So, does anyone have any initial questions or anything like that?
I'll just commend the Parks Commission, the Greenway Public Arts Commission, Laura. And TDS for putting this application together and just realizing the success that we've had from this. I remember doing this a long time ago with you, Laura, and we were having issues getting people, but you're a Jim Weber and the great relationships that we've been creating, primarily through your work, has really resulted in an amazing body of work for this. So congratulations. I was just so impressed by this whole thing. So I just wanted to make sure that was on the record, that you're doing amazing work.
Thank you. And I mean, thank you to all of you. You really had a difficult time reviewing all of these and scoring them. all. And unfortunately, I wish we had 80 boxes to wrap right away. That would make this a lot easier. But we only have 4. So based off of the scores that I did receive, I don't know if we'd like to just jump into reviewing the top scores, or if you'd like to discuss all of them.
Why don't we start from the scores? I think given the volume of submissions, that would be a helpful way to winnow them down.
Okay.
Just to note, Alex Zachariah has joined the meeting.
Welcome, Alex. Good to see you.
Finally got internet, thank you.
Alex, to catch you up, we are just going to start reviewing the top scoring art proposals for the TDS Utility Box artwork. I compiled all your scores and I put them in a handy dandy PowerPoint that Stephanie will please be sharing. Hopefully it makes sense. In my brain, I tried to make it as visually helpful for both hybrid and in person. We can jump through a lot of slides because we didn't need those.
Oh, sorry.
Hey Laura,
Yeah.
so who actually installs the vinyl wrap?
So that is yet to be determined. We have to work. I got a few quotes from a number of vinyl providers.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, not
I just
yet
wasn't sure in the
determined.
process.
So please let me know.
It's gonna be slide number 7. So that's all of them.
Wow.
Well, it's an amazing body of work.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of movement. So this is the top 11, because we had a number of ties. So these are the top 11 pieces. There are some duplicates as far as doubling up on an artist's work. So for instance, at the top kind of right image, Artist C, all 4 of their pieces made the top 10. Along with Artist I, that's on the far left-hand side, 2 of their pieces made the top 10, and then the others are singles. So I know in the past we have placed preference on providing as much opportunity to as many artists as possible. Like I said, we have more than 4 artists here, even in just the top 11, so.
I'd like to make that immediately that, we select one work from an artist.
I agree. I think that makes sense. Laura, with these top ranking pieces, is there a clear distinction, like is there anyone piece or artist that was far and above? I mean, I'm looking to kind of get it further, dwindle the list a little more. So, was there an all-star that just was off the charts, or are they all kind of in the 90s?
So all of them are fairly close. Based on all your scores combined, the top 11 are in the 350 to 340 range. Artist J is tied for first place along with C1 and C2.
Artist J is the robot?
Yes. That is their only piece. Love it. I'd also like to mention that staff also showed a lot of interest in piece J.
Could I suggest that we go ahead and put that one in the running? Or not in the running, but just sort of say like it's in, and then we're looking for 3 others.
That works.
Committee?
Yep. Can I make a call out for D? I know that we're looking at these are the focus, but I thought the body of work that was presented by Artist D was very compelling. That actually was some of my highest rating, and I wonder if we could just consider that artist very quickly. I think they provided a perspective on art that the rest of the body kind of, they were unique in their subject matter, and I wonder if we could just consider that for a moment. I don't know if the rest of you had them medium or low, or, but I would regret not bringing up D in this conversation.
Artist D did not make the top scoring list or even kind of the runner-up.
Okay.
Top 10 and then like the runners-up, it didn't even make the runner-up list. I agree with you though. I think Artist D has some really interesting work and I could see it translating very well to Utility Box, but I think we have moved forward with this. I'd like to continue
Okay.
moving forward with the scoring, I guess, and see. And maybe adding it in, maybe adding Artist D into the runner-up list so that if we're able to expand the program and have more boxes wrapped, we could have it added in then.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if other people feel that same way.
I thought Artist D was very unique. I did like it, but I just didn't think it translated well on a utility box.
I agree with Chuck. I think also I was biased towards pieces where it was clear to see how it would wrap around the box, and this was one where, other than just kind of repeating the same image on every face of the utility box, it didn't feel like a great fit. I also, I look at a lot of drawings, and I see a lot of drawings, I love these eyes, but to me they didn't quite do it for me. But I hear what you're saying, Kent, and there's a lot of neat stuff happening in them. And maybe seeing them in person would be different, but in this context, they didn't do it for me.
Thank you.
So Laura, right now, what's next? How many pieces do we need to choose?
Currently, you guys have just approved Artist J, so we still have 3 more slots to fill. As I said, artists, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, I interrupted you.
As I said, Artist C, all of their work made it either into the top 11 or in the runner-up list. So I would suggest narrowing down to one of those since all of their work was selected.
Okay, can we talk about C? I'm partial to C5. Anyone else have a?
That one's not on.
If you go to the next slide, it should.
The bonding?
Next one. I guess this one would work too. So it's up in the very, very top. It's kind of being covered up
Oh,
with our Zoom
yeah.
info.
So that was in the second tier, Laura?
Yeah, C5, Color of Nature.
Yeah, I like that one. I think I'd be happy with it. However, I thought C1 and C3 were more compelling.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant C3. We are the light with the triangles in the background. Where
Yeah, I was very partial to C2 because I'm a fisherman.
Yeah, I've also was attracted to C3 as well.
I wasn't into C4 because that's a person fishing and that should be me.
Chuck, could you get behind C3 even though it wasn't your
Yeah.
favorite?
No, I scored that one pretty high too. So I'm fine with that also. I saw other utility box examples where they show kind of like the nature in the background, and to me that kind of like draws my eye when, like when I'm looking at the utility box, like, oh, that's kind of neat. So then when I see C2, it's kind of like, hey, that just kind of pops out. But C3 would be fine.
So do we vote for that now?
I would suggest voting for all of them once we've selected all 4. We have 2 now. So
What's the second one? Is
continuing down.
C3?
C3. Continuing down the ranking,
We talked about I.
yes. So I won Immersed in Color, that placed in 3rd place, tied for 3rd.
Does that,
And
yeah.
Standing Voice is lower than that one.
Yes, that was 6th place. But I'd like to mention again, all 3 of artwork, I were in either the top ranking or the runner-up ranking.
What is the name of the one that's the birdies? Like, sort of down in the middle? Is that a U?
Yes.
Oh, with the mountains and the
Yeah,
bright colors?
yeah. I didn't end up turning in any of the voting stuff, so probably don't have a say, but I really like that one. That's it.
U1, I think is that one.
Yeah, I really like the U1. I like the intricate details and the sort of like focal points. You have the foreground of the birds and then the background of the mountains. It really evokes a sense of like serene peace and just kind of says, hey, spring.
I also really love that one, but I kind of got tripped up by those craggy mountains because that to me looks like something out of South America or the American West and not something I see in Green Bay. And we didn't say that these had to be about Green Bay, but I agree with you. I totally love the colors and the kind of collage layers.
Yeah.
With regard to this is another one where I think the work is interesting, both pieces, but it's hard for me to get a sense of how, like, would it be scaled up tremendously to wrap all the way around a box? Would we repeat the image, 4 different times? So I think one of the reasons I didn't score it higher was just, it's unclear to me how this will actually look wrapped around the box.
Yeah.
So
That was my comment too, is that as I look at some of these pieces, I really like them, but what would be the intent on the utility box? Because if you scale them up, then you lose the picture, right? You lose the artwork because you're only seeing fractions of it, and you'd have to like walk around the entire thing and then go view on top to kind of see the entire piece of art in a sense, right? So it's like taking a piece of art like this and just putting a corner of it. And so I think you kind of lose the whole creative intent when it gets put onto a utility box. Unless if they had 5 pieces of art and they're all going to be scaled onto each pane.
could we, Laura, possibly look at the other ones and then come back to I when we have a sense of everything?
Yes. So much excitement.
Real quick, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I see your point, Chuck. However, I think this artist has such attention to detail. You could scale this thing way up and it would still look fine on a box because there is like micro components of this piece that would be kind of cast in a different view if it was blown up. And to me, it doesn't matter that it's not a square or a rectangular representation of this piece. It would just, the feel of this work would be successful, I think, frankly, on a mural, in a painting, or wrapped around a utility box, just because it's very distinctive, and you can make out components even when they are blown up, such as like the piano, and there's like figurative components in that. I'm looking at I-1, that was the one I preferred. It's energetic, it's culturally immersive, and I think we'd really be doing like the body of work in Green Bay. We'd really be leveling, we'd be putting it on a different level with some of this work. I think it's really compelling and very successful, so I'd be a big advocate of I-1 over the other I, which I like, but the top one is just a lot more eye-catching, I think.
Yeah, and I agree that it's, like when I see the artwork, it was, for me, it caught my attention, but at the same thought, when just a fraction of this artwork is going to be shown on one panel and then you can't see the rest of it, you kind of lose that, like, the eye-catchiness of it. And, like right now, when you look at the entire piece of the art, it draws your attention, but now if you just looked at a corner of it that's wrapped on, and you don't see the rest of it, you kind of lose all that, the creativity that went into putting this piece together, as it's a whole piece of art in its entirety, right? Versus, just taking a piece of art and just cutting a little corner of it out and you can't see the rest of it. And that's kind of like where it made it kind of hard to score it well for a utility box.
Yeah, that makes sense. I understand where you're coming from, but I'll just say again that I think there's so much detail in each component, there's so much color wash and variation, that you could take a part of this and it would still be eye-catching. So for pieces, I would totally agree with you, but for this piece, I think I just have a difference of opinion.
Thanks, both of you. Let's move on and look at some others and come back to this, if you don't mind.
Yep.
The second highest scoring piece was K1, Shade Garden in the Fall. So it's kind of the one located to the right of box spots, Jay.
I think this one satisfies what Chuck was just discussing. It clearly addresses all the sides of the box. To me, it's sort of like nice, but not super exciting. It's, you know, if you all love it, I'm fine with it, but I don't feel like it's, yeah. Anyone else want to speak to it, for or against?
Yeah, I like the images of the nature and such, but I'll be honest, it just seemed boring to me.
K1.
Ken and Chuck?
I thought it was nice. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought it was nice. It was, it's a beautiful picture, like and that translates well with a lot of people. So I can appreciate it for its a beauty in that regard. So I think it can be successful as a utility box.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It's, the artist looked at the template, they placed it on there in the perspective that it needs to be for each side that we're going to be looking at, and they translated it onto the utility box, so it looks well, and I think a lot of people can see it and know what it is. You know, so, but I mean, there are other compelling pieces of art, but this, I think the general public could relate to it.
Okay, can we look at another one? Or does anyone else want to, U1, is that our next one?
Well, that was,
What's the one before U1, Laura?
I'm sorry, what?
On the bottom of the slide here, there's two kind of resting on the bottom, the one on the left, or it looks like two maybe on the left.
So artist
Is that
T, yes. Majority of their pieces were also in the top ranking and in the runner-up list. The highest ranking of their pieces was T1. So the one that's at the very top of the
Okay, it
one.
looks like a kind of collage of
Daisies.
daisies.
Yep.
Yeah.
And zinnias.
A bouquet of flowers from the farmer's market.
All right. Well, I think flowers are a pretty well-worn topic. What's exciting to me about this one is the scale of them, kind of almost pushes towards abstraction, and I like seeing how each face of the box is handled. I started love the tulips just because I'm longing for spring, but I think in terms of graphics, T1 is a top rank one for me.
I would agree.
yeah, I think this one also is very relatable. This one will connect with a lot of people. You know, it's very simple and flashy, not provocative. So some people are looking for that.
I also liked it as well.
Staff,
Okay.
feedback that I got from staff also was that they enjoyed it.
Can we tentatively say T3 is out of the running because no one's come to speak to it, and then we'll move on from T1, but know that it's kind of high in our ranking now? Does that sound okay to everybody?
Good.
Okay, great. So now we're looking at U1. Again.
Yes. Native flowers and birds of Green Bay. is tied for 7th place. Alongside T3, which you just kicked out, so.
I just want to say that U3 was excellent. I'm sorry not to see it here. I loved it. But that's just
I agree. But I didn't score.
because you're a hater. All right, so we heard from Giselle, who praised this. I echo that. What do the other folks think about this one?
I like it. I like it in the way that I liked T1 and K1, except for this one to me was a little bit more moving.
Like emotionally, or like it has a sense of movement?
Both. Yeah, I think it you know, trips more of my brain triggers.
And I guess this might be just me, maybe tying some things in that probably aren't why the artist did it, but I think it does evoke a sort of, like, I don't know if you've seen paintings of Japanese art where the mountains are in the back, and I feel like that would also include some of the Japanese community that we have, or like any sort of Asian community that we have, to kind of make them feel like they're home, something like that.
Great. Alex, what are your thoughts?
I like it as well. I think it would work.
Okay. Chuck?
Yeah, this is, I scored this piece pretty well also, and like, if it was between flowers, this piece I would choose over tea.
Okay. Would you all feel comfortable making this our 3rd out of 4? So we've got robots, we've got triangular, collage whatnot, and then this would be 3? Anyone not in favor of that?
I'd rather have I1 as 3.
Would you like to kind of so currently we have 2 selected out of the 4. You have kind of 3 hanging out in the don't know yet zone, I, T, and U. We did invite, artists weren't required to attend the meeting, but we did extend the invitation along with inviting neighborhood associations that these utility boxes are going to be installed in. I haven't heard back from any of the neighborhood associations that they were going to be joining, but we do have members of the public here. I don't know if you'd like to open the floor, hear feedback, and then kind of hone in on these I don't knows.
Before we do that, could we just kind of circle back and kind of identify these and sort of recap where we are with the remaining 2, the 2 slots? So because I think we heard Kent is arguing, is that okay, first of all, before I do that?
I'm okay with that, yeah.
Okay, so, so of the remaining artists, we've got and it sounded like Kent was arguing mostly for I1, unless anyone wants to take up the banner for I3. Robots are in. It sounded like no one was really going to back for a shade garden in the fall. No one objected to it, but it was sort of not setting hearts aflames. So I'm going to move on from that one and consider it less in the running. And then we had Big Daisy Collage, which has a real name, What Colors, and then Native Flowers and Braids of Green Bay. So we've got kind of trippy piano painting, big A daisies, and then kind of fantastical photo collage as our remaining 3. Is that correct? Sorry?
New titles.
I'm so glad that I'm on the record with those clever titles. My apologies. It's just a shorthand. Thank you to all the artists. These are fabulous, but we're going to move forward with the specifics of this project. So I feel like we heard kind of a fair amount on I1 between Kent and Chuck. Could we maybe, well, how would you all like to proceed? And or should we at this point open up the floor to hear from our public constituents? Any other members of the commission want to speak to that? Alex?
I move that we open up the floor.
I second that motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
As
Open
a
the
reminder, for anyone who would like to speak, please state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone who would like to talk about the TDS utility art box call?
All right, I move,
Like,
oh.
when is there anyone present wants to weigh in on the three we just discussed? We could use some help.
If not, I move to close the floor.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of closing the floor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, the floor is closed and we're back to the hard decision time. So we have two selected, we have three remaining, and we need to pick two out of those three.
Can I make a motion to accept C3, J, I1, and U1?
No. I mean, you can make that motion, but what were those pieces, Kent? There was,
That was the piano, I forget the names that you gave them, but I1 was the piano, U1 was the mountains, flowers, J was the robot, and C3 was the triangular collage piece with the butterfly and stuff that we all liked on top.
okay, Kent has made a motion to select those four pieces.
Is there a second? Motion dies.
Motion denied.
Motion
Sounds like
dies
there
for
was not
lack
a
of a
second, so we'll
Yep.
go back to conversation and come back to that. But good job moving us forward.
So Laura,
Who, I'd like to pitch UI as a choice, despite my misgivings about the non-native mountains. I think it's graphically stunning. I think the bright colors are fun. We're essentially trying to dress up something ugly. And I think that will do it nicely.
And that's sort of what I was thinking too, because like if it's a utility box, you don't want people to see that it's this giant thing, right? You want their mind to be like busy with a bunch of the colors, and they're like, oh, there's not this giant thing that's just like standing there.
What did you want to ask, Beth?
out of I, T, and U, if I remember correctly, I has the higher score.
So technically K has the highest score, but it sounds like you guys cut K out. Going down from that ranking, then it's artist I, artist T, and then U. Going off of your scores that you had submitted, but like I always say, our scores are a good jumping point.
I'm in favor of T over I, and this is just personal bias. Yeah, that's where I fall. I'm for T1 and I1.
I'm also for T1, just because of the flowers are so close up and there's a lot of detail to it, and I really like the colors.
Katie, did you say I1 or U1?
What did I say?
I think you
Where's
said
this
I1.
I said T1 and U1.
Yeah, okay.
Big A flowers and collage extravaganza.
And I will say, I agree with Katie and Chuck. Artist T and Artist U did follow the template in the sense of if that's a criteria, we can actually see it laid out.
Artists weren't required to use a template,
Okay.
it was given as a tool.
Tool.
Yep.
Some of them used it, some of them did not use it. In the future.
Well, and I
We should
remember we
require that.
specifically made this call open to people who are not painters and designers. We said, no, submit us a scan of your beading or whatever. And I think Artist I has done that, but now we see that there is a sort of disadvantage to maybe not having the professional tools available to do this kind of mock-up, because it makes it easier for people to imagine what it would look like.
I do want to say that I was very interested in what Artist V was proposing because they didn't send what they were proposing. They just mentioned what they wanted in their statement, but I thought that would be very cool if they would have sent just a sketch or something like that of what they intended for the fishbowl. That would have been really nice. But I just wanted to make that mention. I think my kids and, having a fish tank at home, that would have been interesting to see on a utility box. But, okay, moving on.
My choices are T1, U1, C3, and the robot.
Okay. Kent, are you okay with being outvoted here?
The committee wants to do, I'll just, fall back on the ranking, and we scored higher than those other ones, so I recommend we stick with I. But I'll do whatever, we'll go with what the group chooses.
I'm surprised, if we scored K higher than most of the other pieces, is it just because it's such a general Wisconsin scene that, it's not eye-catchy, but then we scored it high?
I should say, these scores are very, very close between all of them. K ranked out because it was 2 points higher than the following ones. So these are all very closely ranked
Okay.
artworks.
I'd also like to say that the rubric is a very helpful way to get us to eliminate some of the things. I don't think we need to hold to it as gospel truth.
Yep.
The rubric included things like safety. And so you could score really high in safety and that would elevate your score. So I think it was a helpful tool, and now we need to set it down and kind of have a narrative period of discernment. So with respect to those scores, how do we feel about them now that we have this smaller group? And I think we're hearing semi-consensus, but my sense also with Kent is that you are very passionate about this one artist and this person's work, and so you're going to keep going to bat for it. Is that an accurate assessment?
I'll keep going back for it, but,
sorry.
the other stuff, then that's great, that's fine.
I will say I'm on the same boat as Ken. I do like the piano more than the robot.
Oh.
For me, it would be C3, I, T1, and U1. But that's me coming from my background. I'm 100% biased.
Yeah.
So I think we need to,
Motion and support.
yeah, we need to make a
Okay.
motion on 4. Currently, I'd say J1, C3, and you need to narrow down between artist T, U, and I.
I'd like to make a motion that we put forward C3, J1, T1, and U1. Marcel, I think you seconded, but you were muted.
She can't vote.
Yeah,
Oh.
she was appointed.
Oh, sorry.
She's a liaison.
She's a liaison.
Okay, liaison, sorry.
So the motion was for C3, J1, T1, and U1 to go forward in this round of only 4.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor?
I
Aye. All opposed?
Yay.
All right, unfortunately, the ayes have it. Or fortunately.
So you have
Yes. We have 4. This might be opening up a can of worms now that you guys just selected the 4. If further sites open up, would we like to re-explore the submissions that we have or send out a new call?
wasn't that already explained in here that we would keep these for the next site?
And just continue down the
I
ranking?
thought that's what this.
So we would bring it back to continue down the score rankings.
You know what I would recommend though? I think you should have another 1 or 2 in case somebody drops? Like, what if something happens with an artist where they can't do this project, right? You kind of want to have maybe a backup?
Alternative 1 and alternative 2.
I don't know, Kent, could you suggest a backup?
I would definitely suggest we keep these ones on file. It doesn't harm us to keep the option of doing another call, just to our ability. So I wouldn't say we would only select from these, but we can select from these.
I like what Cheryl said as far as having a backup. Can we all agree to move forward with J1, C3, T1, and U1, and keep artwork I1 as a backup?
Yes.
Beautiful.
And then,
Yeah, is that a
K-
motion?
and then
Second
K
it?
for the alternate 2? I think you were talking about alternate 1 and alternate 2 as backups?
How about K1 for a second alternate, since it's scored so high, and
Sure.
everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Somebody make a motion.
I make a motion to add 2 backups, specifically K1 and I1.
And I second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, those will be our backups. Laura, I have a quick question. So we're gonna keep these on file, so will there be contact with the artist whose work was not selected? And if so, can that contact include, this is our first round? I mean, do we need to sort of say to them, can we keep your work on file? Kent, you were saying like, yeah, we'll just keep it, but should we let the artist know that they're possibly still in the running?
Yes, I send a follow-up email to all applicants, notifying them regardless of the decision. Part of that would be to let them know that we'd like to keep your work on file, and then once we're at a point where we do have more sites, I would reach back out to them and ask them, are we able to continue to use your work, or do you have alternate work you'd like to submit? Is that okay?
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds fabulous. Thank you, as always, for doing all the work. I'm wondering about maybe giving artists feedback on, it would help your submission if you showed us how it would look on the box, because it sounds like, that was a thing we valued.
I always offer up if they have questions or would like to talk.
Okay.
They're certainly welcome
Yeah.
to contact me. I'm not nope, we're done, bye.
Okay.
They're always welcome to talk with me about their work. And then, yeah, I think as we kind of discussed, if we are going to send out this call again in the future, having that as a requirement, I think would be in our interest.
Helpful. Okay.
Yeah,
Great. As to people's ability to make that rendering, how accessible that would be to people, and having not the ability to do that would disqualify them or make them, make their work less than.
Well, I would say if you don't have the ability to do that for a mock-up, who's going to do it when it's time to translate it to a vector file or whatever kind of file that the vinyl company's going to use? Like, someone has to do that at some point, and maybe we can set up a template that people use, people that also build it analog, and send that in. So I hear you, like, it seems like a point of access, but I also think it's a thing we need.
There was one of the artists actually had their drawing, and they took the panels that we had and just placed it over their artwork, showing this is what's going to show out of my entire piece. This is how it's going to look. And I believe that was artist R that did that, which was very helpful, which helped me score a little bit better on their piece. And then like artist A submitted 5 pieces, but technically artist A only was submitting 1 piece because all those pieces were for 1 panel each. So they explained it in their statements that each of their artwork pieces would be on a panel. So then it could be scaled, and there's no, there's no concern for how it relates, because it's all just one drawing per panel. So that helps scoring also. So I guess, in terms of placing a TDS utility box, it does, we don't require it because we can imagine it, but then when you look at imagining it, I imagine, what am I going to see? Which part of the painting am I gonna see on which side of the utility box? You know, and if it detracts too much from the entire picture and I lose that picture, or the intent of the artist, then it doesn't make any sense to me. You know, that it just doesn't, you lose what the artist was intending. And so that hurts the scoring in a sense.
Thinking about what you said, Kent, and I feel like that's also, you know, what we're talking about, once you have added this software skills, it's not a hard thing to do, and so maybe for a future call, I would volunteer my services, and if anyone else wanted to, but we could say, look, if you want to submit and you don't know how to mock up this template, if you can turn your work in 2 weeks prior, we can get it into squares. Or, I mean, so that, I think we could think about how to accommodate people who aren't yet at that level, but are still making really compelling images, like some of the other ones we saw.
I would be.
That makes sense, yeah. Go ahead, Laura.
I would be interested in offering that as even staff. I'm speaking. I hope it's okay. I think it's part of my job to help assist artists as much as possible through the projects that we offer. And I did receive feedback from one artist saying that they didn't have a digital camera, so they weren't able to take photos of their work to actually create high enough resolution towards the end. So I think offering up either design services to mock up these images for review, or even potentially adding in an opportunity to, hey, we're gonna have a photograph day, so if you are selected, you have to bring your work here and we'll photograph it for you so that it can be eligible. So I think if we release the call, again, providing more of those technical assistance.
Well, also, on that topic, we have a really great resource in Green Bay in Inkdrop Art House. They do high-quality reproduction of images and color proofing, and I think maybe that's something we could think about as part of that service in the future. Just it's $45, maybe $50 to get an image scanned at high resolution, and so that would ensure that a large painting or a leaf collage is going to reproduce in great detail and not be pixelated and janky looking. So shout out to Inkdrop Art House, unaffiliated.
So, somebody tell me we've already selected our 4 art pieces.
We have.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe we are ready to move on to item 2.
Let's move on to item 2. And that is consideration with possible action to review and approve the arts grant program materials.
Yes, so I guess thank you again for reviewing all the artwork, and thank you to all of the artists that submitted to that. Continuing on, for the arts grant program, back in February, Common Council approved the staff recommendations to use the remaining ARPA funds, or ARPA allocations. Those were approved. Out of those, we had requested funds be allocated towards our rotating art program, which has been kind of a continuous program we've been running since the PAC was established. And the other project that was recommended by staff and approved was to fund arts grant program, which is kind of a new version of what was previously called our annual grant program. There have been some updates to that grant program just with the infusion of the ARPA funds. There's a few more requirements that are included in there, but we've also expanded the funding. So previously it was only up to $1,500 and there was a match requirement to those funds. Now with this program we're proposing to have $2,500 to $10,000 funded for a project. It can fully fund a project. There is no match requirement. With that, like I said, with it being ARPA funds, applicants need to obtain a TIN or UEI number. Again, I think that would be on staff to kind of assist with providing those resources or helping applicants navigate through that application process a little bit. And then as far as the grant timeline, this one, I believe I have it set up that applications would be due in July. That's just set up for this year, given that the funds were just approved in February. through the next few years, I'd like to move that application window up to the beginning of the year and have applications come in from January to March so that we can really kind of take advantage of the warmer months of Wisconsin. So that's a brief overview of it. Does anyone have any initial questions or comments or anything?
This looks fabulous and it's super exciting. Thank you, Laura. I'm going to suggest that we include language that no one on this commission or any of our kind of immediate relatives is eligible for the grant, since we would be the ones evaluating it. Is that correct, that we would be the ones evaluating the applicants?
You guys would be evaluating the applicants.
So neither, no one in this group and no one in that room. I mean, I don't know how we want to parse that language, but, we can't be self-serving with this. And so we would be ineligible, sadly. I'm gonna have to resign because I want to apply for this grant, but we would be ineligible for this grant.
Or do we make it, where do we allow it, but
They have to recuse themselves?
yeah, they have to recuse themselves from voting.
I think that could skirt it, but I don't think it's a great look. That's just my opinion. What other people think? Because, the reason I don't think it's a great look is because even if I recuse myself, we have worked together, I have relationships with you, there could be the perception of me having kind of insider information. We just reviewed a panel, so I have a sense of how this group makes decisions. And hopefully this is going to be an ongoing thing, so people want to apply for it, they can step down from this commission.
Or it could be a great look if we just keep on denying all your relatives.
Like, you didn't come to my Christmas party. Denied.
I'm okay with that too. I just think if I had a cousin that was an artist that I wasn't aware of, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, you're related. Unfortunately, with being a Yang, there's just a lot of relations.
Well, yeah, we could maybe say not your third cousin, or maybe not even your grandmother, but not your spouse.
Immediate relations.
Immediate family maybe, or?
Yeah, I'm sure there's boilerplate language out there we can borrow.
Currently, we do have a stipulation that you do have to recuse yourself if you're involved in a project. And since I have like 3 different mentorship programs going on right now where I have mentees, where I guess potentially their projects would be ineligible because their association with me. I just feel like that would limit us, and rather than make this huge step. Wait till we have.
I don't think it has to be mentees, just you and your family. Or, sorry, to cut you off.
Yeah, I see your point, but have we had lots of complaints? I mean, you said it would be a bad look, but like, I don't know if we're struggling with that.
This would be preventative. I mean, I think I'm in the same boat as you, Ken. I'm cranking out 60 students a year, and I'd love for all of them to apply for this, and I would probably, I guess if I helped them with an application, I'd still need to recuse myself. I think the other issue with recusal is then you have fewer people voting, and so there's maybe a chance for ties, or that particular submission doesn't get the same number of evaluators. And so maybe if we were going to recuse, if someone's going to recuse themselves, then one of our liaisons steps in, but I don't think my vision for this is not that your mentees would be prohibited from applying, but either if you help them with an application, then you recuse yourself during voting, or, I don't know. I mean, I want us to get a lot of applicants, but I think the
recusal process works fine.
okay, I'd still like to say that we are ineligible, right? That's like we can accept all that, like people on the commission cannot apply.
I agree, let's keep our integrity.
And you always, as commissioners, have the right, the opportunity to recuse yourself whenever you're on, for anything, right? That might come up for any reason. So that option's always there for you as commissioners. So that's on the table, so. That's a personal choice you make as commissioners.
Are there other questions or suggestions with regards to the draft that Laura's put before us?
Do we have to make a motion?
I think we're in just the kind of questions of clarification.
Okay.
This is the major facelift, in a very positive way, so I'm really excited for this. The annual grants program was great, we had some amazing work come out, but I think this one's gonna propel the program way forward, so thanks for those ARPA dollars also.
Thank
Yeah.
you, council. I think you're,
Does it
you're a
need to
person.
wrap up in 2023? Is it like tied to fiscal year stuff? Because I'm just looking at like the award period being from August to December. That's kind of not much time
Yeah.
for big works.
So we have to, I split it up that way because we have to spend the funds by 2026. So I had it
Okay.
like from this year to 24, and 25 to 26, which comes out to like 33,000 out of each of those years. I know it's a bit of a rush with this one, but I also don't think we're gonna have a lot of trouble being like, hey, do you want some money to do cool stuff in the community? And I put those, I might be wrong, but I think for accounting purposes, that's just a more of a mental thing so that I can keep it separated. I don't think it's gonna be like, oh, like you didn't finish December 31st, the other half of your money denied. I think it's more to just keep my mental calendar and staff.
That'll only come into play on your final year, because once you hit your end of your grant period, you cannot spend beyond it.
Okay.
That'll be the only time that that will come into play.
So for,
Would it,
oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so from that, for the like last year that we're running this out of ARPA funds, hopefully we are able to increase more funds so that we don't have to worry about ARPA funds running out. But for that last year, then it'll be like, you absolutely have to have your project end, probably ideally like a month before even, just so we can wrap up paperwork and everything else. So,
Okay. I mean, I kind of like to see a longer period, but, and I'm imagining overlapping periods, which sounds like a headache for you. But just, you know, if a grant is up to $10,000 and well, I guess we'll just see how this first round goes.
I think so. And like I said, if the funds were approved back in December, I would have set this up so that we could have started off right away. And I do like
Sure.
always kind of keeping that 3-month application window open, just because everyone gets busy and it takes a while to think of a project and stuff. So this year is a bit of an anomaly just because the funds got approved in February. So I've kind of shifted everything and crunched it together. But the following years, it will kind of be, I think, a little bit more breathing room. But like you said, we can kind of see how this goes. And if this first year or whatever is a little bit more of a rolling sort, I think we kind of, no pun intended, roll with it.
Sounds great.
And the
Are there any
goal is
other-
the goal is to get this ARPA money out the door. So even
Yeah.
even if you get a lot of apps, right, and this money is spent in 2 years instead of 3, like, that's okay too, because our goal is to, right,
Yep.
spend the ARPA money in the arts and get it out in the
Great.
community, so.
Any other questions or comments for Laura on the draft? Make a motion to approve this draft with the amendment that GBPAC members are ineligible to apply.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. All right, so that brings us to the financial report and the coordinator's report and project updates.
Yes. So in your packet, on page, it's the last page, page 46, is our financial report. We got a lot of money, guys. I mean, probably in the grand scheme of like big dollar budgets, it's probably tiny, but we got a lot of money. As usual, we have it split up into kind of our fund buckets and what those funds are either restricted or non-restricted, what they can be used for. The very top portion of our budget, I have it in that PowerPoint. Is everyone looking at it, I guess? That probably makes this a lot easier if everyone's looking at it. Or would you like us to share it on the screen?
If you would share it, that'd be great, thanks.
Sorry, Stephanie. It's in that PowerPoint. It'll be slide 11.
Just, yeah, hit the arrows, there you go.
So can you guys see this?
I see that it is there, but I cannot read the numbers at present. So maybe it would be possible to zoom in.
And
Let's see if we can do it again.
there we go. So up at the top, that portion shows like our overall total budget as far as the buckets that we have. So community development block grant funds, grants and or restricted funds, city funds, which are more unrestricted, but we have them held within the city. They're easier access, and then our friends account money. So underneath that upper portion, we have our individual buckets laying out specifically what's in each of those. So in our CDBG funding, that's where my position is being paid out of, along with our,
The levy.
I'm gonna let the accountant. Is that no, I'm partially paid through.
Yeah.
Laura was moved. She is now admin out of CDBG, so she does not come out of these funds. These are funds specifically made for art within our community.
Oh,
So
okay.
it is switched. But the coordinator position money hasn't been moved to anything else yet,
We haven't
so
reallocated.
it hasn't been reallocated, so that's why it's still sitting in there, but it would be something that this commission, if they had a project, probably could request that change.
Okay. Then we also have, thank you, Stephanie. Sorry, I immediately butchered your beautiful work. Underneath that, we also have our shipyard underpass funding, which that is above and beyond our match for the shipyard murals that are going to be taking place in June. Continuing down, we have our city grants bucket, which is what we have been paying our rotating artists out of. We will have our outgoing artists paid through that. We also have our match for our NEA grant in there. The reason we have block grant money going towards shipyard project along with this money is because block grant is federal money and we can't use federal and federal together. So we needed $10,000 to match the NEA grant. So that's where that's coming from. So overall, shipyard project has $97,000 going towards it.
No, actually 107.
Yeah.
Because it's 90, it's 87,000, 10,000, and 10,000. So that's 107,000.
I forgot the remaining 10,000. Thank you. Again, not an accountant, guys. This is why you're here. We also paid for our rotating art insurance, so all of our sites are covered for the next year, which is great. So we have $400 some unallocated in that bucket. Then our NEA money, that's going towards the shipyard project. City funds, that's our ARPA money, and you can kind of see, so we got $200,000 total, $50,000 of that was set aside for the rotating art program, and then you guys just approved to go forward with the art grant program, which is $150,000. City donations, which is our restricted funds, is basically our Embark maintenance fund, which is a fantastic thing, and I would love to explore more maintenance funds. And then lastly, we have our Friends account money, which is our unrestricted money. GGBCF is the funds that we have located over at the Community Foundation, and then the remaining funds are located within the bank. Stephanie, did I
Laura?
remember anything else?
Laura and Stephanie, was the first. Is there freedom to move things from buckets? So like the unallocated 456, like that can't just be put into the Friends account, for example?
No.
There's no like socking away money. It's spend it or lose it.
Yes. And I'm going to tell you that the CDBG money does need to be spent no later than November 1st.
I'm gonna say October.
She wants to do it October, that's great. Crystal loves to do
Okay.
that.
So that's a chunk of change to allocate or to spend in great ways.
So really, Katie, that Friends account on the bottom, that's money that's donated. So that really is an unrestricted account that could sit in perpetuity or could be spent, in any manner. So that probably is the only account that has that flexibility. Everything else is tied to either a federal program or restrictions that were set up, like the city donations for the WPS, that's specifically for that art piece, maintenance, so.
But did you just say, I thought I heard someone say that the money in the Greater Green Bay Community Foundation account needed to be spent by October or November?
No, that's
Oh.
that's block grant. Community
Thank
development's
you.
the top one. We've
Okay.
got to spend that, and then ARPA's like, of course, we've got to spend that in a couple of years, 2-3 years.
Mhm.
That Friends account
Great.
on the bottom, if anybody would like to seek donations for the PAC, certainly do that if you have an opportunity, because that money goes into that Friends account, and then that's unrestricted for the PAC use.
Yes, and previous to us receiving ARPA funds, we were using Friends money to fund the rotating art program. So
Great.
more unrestricted funds would be great.
Thank you, both of you. Are there any questions about this information?
I have to ask the staff question. So when did the position get moved to levy?
Budget time.
Budget time?
Only a portion of it.
Okay, and is that something that's gonna hopefully be stable?
Yep, I believe it's in the budget stably, moving forward. Right, eventually I'd like to see 100% of it go on the levy, but right now a portion of it. And we also have our TID program that we're looking to seek. There's a percentage for arts, for projects that are allocated with tax increment financing. So we've got one project going right now on the Far East side that we're looking to see how that money plays out, because the developers either have to spend that money for artwork on their project, right? Or they could just cut a check to the PAC. So it's really up to them. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully we'll get a big chunk of change.
That would be nice.
So-
And at the very least, I think having that program set up, even if we don't get money directly, you still need someone to be running those projects, and
Yep.
I think that provides a little bit of job security.
Yep, there's some admin money I think we can get off of that for Laura's time, so we're in a better spot than we were last year.
I always have to ask, I've worked in government all my life, so know how it goes.
Any other
Okay.
questions?
Other questions? So you were just like, sounds like there are no further questions. And I see under informational that we have the coordinators report and project updates.
Yes, so a lot of this will now just be me following up with all of the artists that we had reviewed today and continuing to move that TDS artwork forward. We also released our rotating art call for this new season last month. So we'll be bringing that to you guys. It got delayed a little bit because I was waiting to hear about ARPA funds, so we will be a little bit later than what we normally review those, but we should still be good on schedule as far as changing out the previous season's artwork and moving in our new season's artwork this year. And then also continuing the Shipyard Murals project. And then I've also been involved, I think, with a number of you here and there through some Art Fest meetings. So if anyone has any contacts or people that they think would be interested in helping participate, you can share my information and I can help connect them up with Downtown Green Bay and other contacts that, if they'd like to participate. and make Art Fest really, really something special for downtown this summer. Those are my updates.
Thanks. You're great. We appreciate your work.
Thank you. And then our next meeting will be April 26th, unless otherwise specially scheduled or anything else like that. Same time, same hybrid format. If you'd like to join, you're certainly welcome, but hybrid also works.
Laura and esteemed members of city government, could we take a minute to, well, I was going to propose that we talk about something that's not on the agenda, but I realize that's not allowed, because, never mind.
You can call me after.
I just wanted everybody to share art events that are going on in the city that they know about, like what's good, but we'll do that next time. And I'll call you after.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Motion to end,
Adjourn.
adjourn.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, thanks, everyone.
Recording stopped.